Imagine this. A mother takes her daughter to the park on a sunny afternoon. The kind of ordinary day that feels safe, routine, unshakable. Children laugh, swings creak, and parents chat on benches while keeping half an eye on their kids. But in the blink of an eye, one little girl vanishes. No scream, no trace, just gone. For years, her family searches. Posters fade on lampposts, news cameras move on, and hope begins to wither. And then, 12 years later, police open the door of an abandoned house on the edge of town, and what they find inside leaves everyone speechless. This is the haunting story of Emily Carter, the girl who disappeared from a playground, and the shocking truth that finally emerged over a decade later. It was a warm Saturday afternoon in Springfield, a quiet suburban town where nothing truly terrible ever seemed to happen. 7-year-old Emily Carter, with her bright blonde hair tied in pigtails and a gap-toothed smile, begged her mom, Laura, to take her to the playground. Laura finally agreed, packing a small picnic basket while Emily grabbed her favorite doll. They walked just a few blocks to Maple Park, a place bustling with kids. At first, it was perfect. Emily ran straight to the swings, squealing with joy. She played tag with other children, slid down the big yellow slide, and laughed so hard her cheeks turned pink. But then, in less than 10 minutes, Laura's world shattered. She had only looked down to check a text message, and when she looked back up, Emily was gone. Panic rose in her throat. She scanned the park, called her name. Emily! Emily! Other parents joined in, searching the bushes, the bathrooms, the parking lot. But Emily wasn't there. Within an hour, police had cordoned off the park. By nightfall, helicopters circled with spotlights, searching fields and forests. But there was no sign of Emily, no footprints, no witnesses who clearly saw what happened. It was as if the earth had swallowed her whole. Emily's disappearance tore through Springfield like wildfire. The next morning, her picture was plastered across newspapers and broadcast on TV. A sweet little girl in a pink dress, holding a stuffed bear. Volunteers flooded in. Hundreds combed the woods, checked rivers, and knocked on doors. But days turned into weeks. Police followed every lead. A suspicious van seen near the park. A man in a hoodie walking through the neighborhood. Even tips from psychics. But each lead ended in disappointment. Laura could barely function. She stopped eating. She stopped working. She spent every waking hour plastering posters across nearby towns, whispering, "Please, just bring her home." Her husband, Mark, grew distant. The grief consumed their marriage until 2 years later, they divorced. Emily's disappearance didn't just take a daughter, it ripped apart a family. By the 5th year, hope in the community began to fade. Police quietly closed the active investigation, leaving only a cold case file collecting dust. But Laura never stopped searching. 12 long years later, in a different part of the state, a call came into the Springfield Police Department. A neighbor had reported strange noises from an abandoned farmhouse on the edge of Oak Ridge, a small rural town about 80 miles away. Kids breaking in again, the caller thought. But when officers arrived and pushed open the rusted door, what they saw froze them in place. Inside the dim, dusty house, a young woman sat quietly in a corner, pale, thin, her hair long and unkempt. She clutched an old doll to her chest. When the officers asked her name, she whispered, "Emily, Emily Carter." At first, the officers thought it must be a mistake. Emily Carter had been missing for 12 years. The girl in front of them looked about 19. But when they compared photos, the same blue eyes, the same tiny scar on her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike as a child, it was her. The girl who vanished from the playground was alive. Emily was rushed to the hospital. She barely spoke, her voice hoarse, her body frail. Doctors confirmed she had been severely malnourished, but otherwise healthy enough to recover. The news sent shockwaves across the country. After 12 years of silence, Emily Carter had been found. But the question remained, where had she been all this time? Who had taken her? Detectives carefully interviewed Emily. At first, she was terrified to speak. Years of captivity had conditioned her to remain silent. But slowly, her story emerged. The day she vanished from the playground, Emily had been lured away by a woman she recognized. A woman who told her, "Your mom asked me to take you home." That woman was Angela Miller, a 32-year-old former daycare worker with a history of mental illness. She had always wanted a daughter of her own but had been unable to have children. Angela took Emily to a remote farmhouse. She raised her there in complete isolation, telling her that her real parents didn't want her anymore. Emily never went to school, never saw friends. She lived inside that decaying house, trapped in a false reality. Angela forced her to call her mom, but as Emily grew older, she began to question things. She saw glimpses of missing posters when Angela left newspapers lying around. She realized she wasn't who Angela claimed she was. And then, when Angela unexpectedly died of a heart attack one night, Emily was left alone. For weeks, she survived on canned food in the farmhouse, until the neighbors heard noises and called the police. That was how Emily was finally found. When Laura received the phone call that her daughter had been found alive, she collapsed to her knees. For 12 years, she had prayed, cried, begged for a miracle. And now, her miracle had come. The reunion at the hospital was nothing short of heart-wrenching. Laura ran into the room, tears streaming, as Emily whispered, "Mom?" They held each other for the first time in over a decade. Nurses cried. Even hardened detectives looked away to hide their emotions. But the road ahead wasn't easy. Emily had missed her entire childhood. She didn't know how to live in the real world. Crowds terrified her. Loud noises made her flinch. Laura promised to stay by her side through it all, to rebuild the years that had been stolen. The community rallied around Emily. Donations poured in to help her start a new life. Therapists worked tirelessly to help her adjust. Angela Miller's dark past came to light. Neighbors described her as quiet, odd, but no one imagined she had kept a girl locked away for 12 years. The farmhouse was eventually demolished. Too many painful memories inside its walls. Emily's story sparked national awareness about child abductions and the importance of never giving up hope. For Laura, every sunrise with her daughter felt like a gift. She had gone from planning candlelight vigils to helping Emily enroll in college. The scars were there, the trauma undeniable. But Emily's survival was proof that even in the darkest stories, light can break through. The story of Emily Carter isn't just about tragedy. It's about resilience, hope, and a mother's love that never gave up. 12 years of silence, 12 years of pain. But in the end, a little girl stolen from a playground was brought back home. And sometimes, that's enough to remind us all that miracles still happen.